हे गाइस, कैसे हैं आप लोग। ये हमारा न्यू चैनल है। इस पे हम एंथ्रोपोलॉजी का पूरा एक कोर्स डालेंगे। तो ये स्टूडेंट उनके लिए वीडियो है जिनके वो एंथ्रोपोलॉजी ऑप्शन है स्टार्टिंग के लिए। तो स्टार्टिंग में जितने टॉपर्स का ब्लॉग्स पढ़ा है और जितने भी मैंने एक्सपीरियंस है, मैंने अपने क्लासमेट्स और सीनियर से बात करी है, उनके अकॉर्डिंग अगर आपको एंथ्रोपोलॉजी पढ़नी है तो पहले आपको इस बुक से स्टार्ट करना पड़ेगा, जिसका नाम है एम्बर एंड नंबर। ये आपका एक काफ़ी हद तक बैकग्राउंड तैयार कर देगी एंथ्रोपोलॉजी का। और यूँ कह सकते हैं ये सिलेबस का पार्ट भी है आपका, एम्बर एम्बर 14th edition. So now let's start with Ember and Ember, its first chapter. As we can see, this is index. There's first we have to study that what is anthropology and research methods in anthropology. So then we have to come in the first unit, first chapter. So let's start. And if you are not subscribe my channel, please subscribe my channel, because in this channel you will get all the helpful videos related to anthropology, as well as strategy, as well as toppers point. So I think let's start with this chapter first. So it is what is anthropology. Anthropology, by definition, it is a discipline of infinite curiosity about human beings. The term comes from the Greek anthropos for man, human, and logos for study. And anthropologists seek answers to an enormous variety of questions about humans. They are interested in both universal and differences in human populations. They want to discover when, where, and why humans appeared on the earth, how and why they have changed, and why the biological cultural features of modern human populations vary. Anthropological has a practical side too. Applied and practicing anthropologists put another anthropological methods, information, and results to use in efforts to solve practical problems practical problems. The study of human beings is not an adequate definition of anthropology. It is much beyond this. Now we will start that, however, since it would appear to incorporate that whole catalog of disciplines, sociology, psychology, political science, economics, history, human biology, and perhaps even the humanistic disciplines of philosophy and literature. Most of the disciplines concerned with the human beings have existed longer than anthropology, and each has its distinctive focus. There had grown a separate discipline for over century. So now also we have to this in box there is a very short definition which is very important. You have to mug up upon the definition that a discipline that studies human, focusing on the study of differences and similarities, both biological and cultural. In human populations, what happens, anthropology is concerned with typical and biological and cultural characteristics of human population in all periods and all parts of the world. And also one thing I was forgot to just told you in this video that in this video maybe long, because we have completing complete chapters. In this you don't have to read the chapter, just make your plugs in ears, and you can listen and very carefully, and you will go through with complete chapter in a detailed way, by line, word by word, and line by line, and wherever it is important I will told you what is a perspective important for your exam perspective. So you have to just listen about this very carefully. Now this is very also important topic comes the scope of anthropology. Anthropologists are generally through of as individuals who travel to little known corners of the world to study exotic peoples or dig deep into the earth to uncover the fossil remains, tools, parts of people who lived long ago. Through stereotypical, this view does suggest how anthropology differs from other disciplines concerned with humans. Anthropology is broader in scope both geographically and historically. Anthropology, you can say, is concerned with explicitly and directly with all varieties of people throughout the world, not just those close at hand or within a limited area. Anthropologists are also interested in people of all periods, beginning with the immediate ancestors of humans who lived a few million years ago. Anthropology traces the development of humans until the present. Every part of the world that has ever contained a human population is of interest of anthropologists. Anthropologists have not always been global and comprehensive in their concerns as they are today. So traditionally, they are concentrated on non-Western cultures and left the study of Western civilization and similar complex societies. So, with their recorded histories to other disciplines in recent years, however, this division of labor among the disciplines has begun to disappear. Now what happened that anthropologists work in their own and other complex societies, because as you know that today's world anthropology had now very got developed, and it can be known by many persons as it come in the optionals on UPSC and further exams, many exams. Now what includes anthropologists chooses to choose a broader subject for study, in part that they are motivated by the belief that any suggested generalization about human beings, any possible explanation of some characteristics of human culture or biology, should be shown to apply to many times and places of human existence. If a generalization or explanation does not prove to apply widely, anthropologists are entitled or even obliged to be skeptical about it. So the skeptical attitude in the absence of persuasive evidence is our best protection against acceptive invalid ideas about humans, because anthropologists are acquainted with human life in an enormous variety of geographic and historic settings. They are also often able to correct mistakes beliefs about different groups of people. For example, an American when American educators discovered the 1960s the what that African American school children rarely drank milk. This is very important. You have to remember that they assumed that lack of money or education was the cause, but evidence from anthropology suggested a different explanation there. Anthropologists had known for years that people do not drink fresh milk in many parts of the world where milking animals are kept. Rather, they store it before they drink it, or they make it into cheese. So, why they do so in clear that many people lack the enzyme lactase. You also know about that is necessary for breaking down lactose sugar, which is present in the milk. Lactose sugar. So, when such people drink regular milk, it actually interferes with digestion. That means they will face many problems with their digestion. So, that is not suitable for their body. Not only the lactose in milk is not digested, but other nutrients are also less likely to be digested as well. So in many cases, it has been seen that the drinking milk will cause cramps, diarrhea, stomach gas, and nausea. Studies indicate that milk intolerance is found in many parts of the world. The condition is common in adulthood among Asians, Southern Europeans, Arabs, Jews, and West Africans, Inuit Eskimos, and North and Southern American native peoples, as well as African Americans. So now, the friends, the topic came holistic approach. I would like to tell you that this is the very important topic, because the previous year question comes directly from this topic, that what is the holistic approach of anthropologists, how they think. So holistic approach means the complete from all dimension, multifaceted. Now here we have to different definition that holistic means that refers to an approach that studies many aspects of multifaceted system. That we will holistic means a complete approach, that we will study this from every dimension, every theoretical way, every way. So now, in addition to its worldwide and historical scope, anthropology has the distinguishing feature of having a holistic approach to the study of human beings. Anthropologists study the many aspects of human experiencing as an integrated whole. For example, an anthropologist's description of a group of people is likely to encompass their physical environment, a history of an area, how their family life is organized, general features of their language, their settlement patterns, their political and economic systems, their religion, their styles of arts and dress. So the goal is not only to understand these aspects of physical and social life separately, but to glean connections among them. Throughout this book, you will see that these seemingly separate factors in a culture regularly co-occur, that is, they form patterns of traits. Anthropologists want not only to identify those patterns but to explain them. And I think you got to understand that means they cover whole area, that how they live, how what are their religion, what are their caste, and how they do. So this is now come with the part, the anthropological curiosity. Anthropological curiosity, why? Because they want to know, they have the curiosity, they want excited to know about everything, whatever what the human did, what how they did, and why they did. This is the some questions that always arising inside the anthropologist. So okay, now study anthropological curiosity. Listen carefully, that thus far we have described anthropology as being broader in scope, both historically and geographically, and more holistic in approach than other disciplines concerned with human beings. But this statement again implies that anthropology is the all inclusive human science. How then is anthropology really different from other disciplines? We suggest that anthropology's distinctiveness lies principally in the kind of curiosity it arouses. Anthropologists tend to focus on the typical characteristics of the human populations they study rather than of individual variations or variations in small groups. Why do some populations have lighter skin than others? This question arises. Why do some societies practice polygamy whereas others prohibit it? And where and when did people first start to farm rather than collecting and hunting wild resources? Anthropologists want to know why the characteristics of than others might take for granted exist. Whereas economists, suppose there is an economist that take a monetary system for and granted and study how it operates. So at the same place, anthropologist's work will be like, he will ask that how frequently monetary systems occur, and why they vary, and why only some societies have been using their thousands of years. It is not the anthropologists do not concern themselves with individuals. For instance, in studying political systems, if we say anthropologists might want to know why does certain people tend to be leaders, but when they study individual traits of leaders, in order to answer the question, it may be because they want to better understand the political pressure in the larger social group, such as society. Or anthropology might ask an even broader question, such as whether certain qualities of leaders are universally preferred. So, because of anthropologists view human groups holistically, their curiosity may lead them to find patterns of relationships between the seemingly unrelated characteristics. So for example, the presence of ability, we can say the presence of ability to digest the lactose, a physical trait in a population that is seems to be found in societies. So that depend heavily on daring. In recent times, what happened, as more anthropologists work in larger and more complex societies, the focus of inquiry has shifted from looking at a whole society to smaller entities such as neighborhoods, communities, organizations, or social networks. But the focus on whole entity is still strong. That's a very good point, that focus on the whole entity is still strong. So you can get from this paragraph that the anthropologists not also, they are also either think they are not think don't think so about anthropologists that they focus always on small things, that why this happened, why they also focus on the wider things. So this is the anthropologist work, they will get from all the dimensions of about humans, so how it's due everything whatever they want, every minor thing as well as major things. So now the fields of anthropology, that's a very interesting topic, that fields of anthropology. Now you have just got the parts of anthropology, you will understand very easily. I will in such a video like, okay, so let's start the fields of anthropology. In the past, an anthropologist covered as many subjects as possible. Today, as in many other disciplines, so much information has accumulated that anthropologists tend to specialize in one topic or area. So some are concerned primarily with the biological or physical characteristics of human populations, and other are interested principally in what we call cultural characteristics. So hence there are two broad classifications of subject. So this is two broad classification subject. So firstly we will read about this, then we will can come and understand this. Firstly we will understand this diagram. There's a diagram that archaeology, there is a firstly have to and I think we have to read about this. There are four fields of anthropology according to there this, the subdisciplines of anthropology in bold letters written over that may be classified according to the period with the each is concerned, distant past, recent parts, or present, by subject matter. Traditionally three fields showed in the blue. So you have to see, you can see, as you can see this diagram, there is a archaeology, ethnology, ethnology, anthropological, or biology. These are the four types of anthropology. There are four fields of anthropology. I am again repeating the what are the four fields of anthropology. The first field is archaeology, second field is ethnology, third field is anthropological, and fourth field is biological. So these are the four fields, and they will also be subdivided into many fields. So now we will read next, like that matter that what are the fold that the major two fields. If we talk about what are the major two branches of anthropology, that are biological, or we can say physical anthropology. There's a term used same, that biological or physical, that two terms are same meaning, that anthropology can be used. And another one is cultural anthropology, that while biological anthropology is one major field of anthropology, cultural anthropology is divided into three subfields: archaeology, linguistics, and ethnology. So ethnology is the study of the recent cultures, is now usually referred to by the parent name cultural anthropology, cross-cutting these fields in the fifth, that applied or practicing anthropology. So now we will just read this main definitions important, so you will learn about what is biological or physical anthropology. The study of humans as biological organisms which are dealing with the emergence and evolution of humans and with contemporary biological variations among human population. This is known as biological anthropology. Okay, cultural anthropology, the study of cultural variations and universals at past and present. This is cultural anthropology. Applying or practicing anthropology is that the branch of anthropology that concerns itself with applying anthropological knowledge to achieve the practical goals. So now here we will study that biological anthropology. Biological anthropology is the biological physical anthropology seeks to answer two distinct sets of questions. That's human planetology or paleoanthropology. Paleoanthropology. So firstly, just understand this term. What is human paleontology or paleoanthropology? That the study of the emergence of humans and their later physical evolution. This is known as human paleontology, or you can say paleoanthropology. What is the, again I repeating, the study of the emergence of humans and their later physical evolutions. So now with that biological anthropology, it's a part that anthropology seeks to answer those questions that poses a question that emergence of humans and their later evolution. A focus on human variation includes question about how and why contemporary human populations are very biologically. Very good question that how we can say ask that all we are population humans are same many because we have every parts, we have two hands and two legs, one nose, there are 32 teeth there, that all are same. So why there are so many variations? Because some skin have dull and some have very fair skin, some have height very low, some have very height decrease. So these are the some variations which differ us. So that's the thing that anthropologists want to know. So that was a part of biological anthropology or physical anthropology. Okay, so that's the thing. So now to reconstruct the evolution, human paleontologists search for and study the buried and hardened remains of impressions known as fossils. As you know, fossils are the hardened remains of impressions of plants and animals that were lived in the past, that was which was buried, and now they can get for the research and the for useful study. So fossils of humans, pre-humans and related animals. Paleontologists what they did working in the East Africa, for instance, they excavated some fossils remains of human-like beings that lived more than 4 million years ago. So these findings have suggested that approximate dates when our ancestors began to develop two-legged walk and very flexible hand and the larger brain. So they're talking about our ancestors. In attempting to clarify evolutionary relationships, human paleontology may use not only fossil record but also geological information on the succession of climates, environments, the plants, animal population. Everything just have play its role to just differ in our humans. So moreover, when reconstructing the past of human and the paleontologists are interested in the behavior and the evolution of other our closest relatives among the mammals, the prosimians, the monkeys, the apes, which like ourselves are members in the orders of primates. The primates what a member of the mammalian order of primates divided into the suborders of prosimians and anthropoids. So primates is the member of the mammalian order of mammalian order primates. Anthropologists, psychologists, and the biologists who specialize in the study of primates are called primatologists. The various species of primates are observed in the wild and the laboratory labs. So one especially popular subject of study is the chimpanzee, which bears a close resemblance of humans in behavior and physical appearance. As you can see, the chimpanzee is almost our same. It can walk on two legs, it can dance, it can move, and almost the face structure also same of the chimpanzee. So which bears a very close resemblance to humans behavior and has a similar blood chemistry also, and is susceptible to many of the same diseases. It now appears that chimpanzee shares 99% of their genes with humans. Oh my god, that's a very good, as you can see, fact that chimpanzee shares 99% of human genes with ours. So for primary studies, biological anthropologists what they try to discover characteristic that with distinctly humans as opposed to those might part of the primate heritage. With the information, they may be able to infer that what our prehistoric ancestors we like. So now this is very she's very famous anthropologist, is known as Betu Geldix, that works with the two orangutans in the Borneo. So these are the two chimpanzees of the one varieties variables. So now inference with the primate studies are checked against the fossil record. So this is written about here that evidence from the earth collective in bits and pieces. Obviously there is not any thing which we count in a very full complete. So we will found some things in a bits and pieces that are correlated with scientific observations of our closest living relatives. In short, we can say biological anthropologists piece together bits of information obtained from different sources. They construct theories, obviously, of and that explain the changes observed in the fossil record, then attempt to evaluate their theories by checking one kind of evidence against another. Human paleontology thus overlaps such disciplines as geology, general vertebrae, particularly planetology, and comparative anatomy, study of comparative primitive behavior. Second major focus of biological anthropology is the study of human variations. Investigates how and why contemporary human population differ in biological or physical characteristics. Exactly, all living people belong to one species, that's homo sapiens, as we all know. So yet much varies among human population. Investigators of human variations ask such question as that why are some people generally taller than others, as I earlier asked that how many people adopted physically to their environment conditions. Are some people such as Inuit Eskimos, which are lived in a very cold condition, as you know, which are living in the Antarctica and Arctic area, which are better equipped than other peoples to endure cold. So does darker skin pigmentation offer special protection against the tropicals? And these are the some questions which always in the mind, or which are always the part of curiosity of anthropologists, which were answered by only the anthropology. So to understand better the biological variations among contemporary human populations, biological anthropologists use the principles, concepts, and techniques of at least three other disciplines: human genetics, the study of inherited human traits; Population biology, the study of environmental effects on interaction with the population characteristics. And third one is the epidemiology, the study of how and why diseases affect the different populations. So what are the three studies? That human genetics and population biology and epidemiology. Although research on human variation overlaps research in other fields, biological anthropologists remain primarily concerned with the human population and how are they vary biologically. Now, cultural anthropology. Cultural anthropology is the study of how and why cultures in the past and present vary or in similar. But what is culture? The concept of culture is so central to anthropology, what we all devote in entire chapter 8. Brief, the term culture refers to the customary laws. Very simple definition of culture, that customary laws, that way a particular population or society thinks and behaves on such a way. And the culture of a social group includes many things, from the language that the people speak, the child rearing, and the roles assigned to the male side with females, to religious beliefs and practices and preferences in music. So anthropologists are interested in all of those things and other learned behaviors, ideas that have come to be widely shared or customary in this group. So now we have come to the current research and issues that talk about. There is a researcher who Elisa Crittenden event that when an anthropologist Bachelet plan meet the fakes on the ground. He just face like we can say ground worker to ground anthropologist worker. That results can be unexpected. For Elisa Crittenden, an anthropologist professor at the University of Nevada field worker, she also brought from some delightful deviations. That she revealed something that he when Crittenden 2004 began work with the Hadza, a hunter-gatherer people in Tanzania, because hunter-gatherers subsist by following their food and they represent for the basic economy way of life that has characterized by most of human story. The human history. Therefore, such few remaining peoples are valued subjects for an anthropological study. As a biological anthropologist, Crittenden was especially interested in what Hadza culture might reveal about the evolution of human diet. She chose the diets of women for study and measured the relationship between the reproductive capacity and the amount and nutrition value of the food they foraged. Yet that data told only part of the previously untold story of Hadza women. That I quickly realized that Crittenden says that I could not study the women diet is in isolation. These women belong to a community of people, a support system of kin and neighbors. To understand women's contribution of Hadza economy, I had to be ethnographer as well as a biological anthropologist. Thus, after 10 years of field work among the Hadza, Crittenden characterizes herself as a biocultural anthropologist. One surprising discovery Crittenden made on the Hadza children that were hunters and gatherers in their own right. That's a very amazing thing, that they were helping their mothers indirectly by providing their own food and thus contributing to their economy. This evidence contradicted with what was known about the children of other hunter-gatherer groups such as San of the Kalahari district, whose children are observed to help process mongongo nuts, but otherwise to do little else but play. The difference may partly be due to the environment. The Kalahari was less variable terrain, less water, and the more predators than southern western Tanzania. For Hadza children, foraging their own foods become an extension to play. Children who are 5 years old and younger can contribute up to 50% of their caloric needs for egging or for their own food. By the time they turned 6, children were contribute to 65-75% own food, while girls collect water and plant foods, and boys also hunt. So using a bow and arrow like their elders, they use at comes at age 3. So they come hunt for the birds, lizards, babies. So this is the way of there. So Hadza children spend their days together in groups, seemingly unpreserved, with the usually older children nearby keeping an eye on them or supervising them how they are working. And toddlers join a group of children as soon as they were weaned, that is breeding. So observing Hadza children, you can't help but wonder how the long dependent childhood most of experiencing evoked, say Crittenden. So here you will just get the definition of art is archaeology. Archaeology is the nothing but that the study of the past cultures primarily through their material remains. Whatever it's how they we just study the Harappa, how we study the Mohenjo-daro, that's with the help of archaeology. The study of past cultures primarily through their material remains, whatever the material got remains, and archaeologists seek not only to reconstruct the daily life and customs of people who lived in the past, but also to trace cultural changes and to offer possible explanation for those changes. While their subject matter is similar to that of historians, archaeologists reach much farther back in time. Historians deal only with the societies that left written records. Now, here it is the records which this limits their scope of last 5,000 years ago. So the history, human history, to a small proportion of societies that developed writing. Human societies have existed for more than a million years. However, an archaeologist serve as historians for all those past societies that lacked a written record. Because from written records we can get about the history, about the culture, civilization about that particular group of people or that time of people. So with scant or no written records to study, archaeologists must try to reconstruct history and the remains of human culture. So some of these remains are grand as Mayan temples are discovered at Chichen Itza in Mexico. More often what remains is an ordinary as a bits and broken pottery, stone tools and garbage heaps. So most archaeological archaeologists deal with the prehistory, the time before the written records. Prehistory means the time before the written records and the time before written record, but a separate, especially with this archaeology called historical archaeology. What a historical archaeology, the specialty within archaeology that studies the materials remained of recent people who left written records. That's a historical archaeology. I'm again repeating that specialty with archaeology that studies the material remains of recent people who left written records. That is historical archaeology. So studies with the remains, and as its name implies that employ the methods of both archaeologists and historians to study recent societies to understand how and why ways of life have changed through the time in different parts of the world. Archaeologists to collect materials from sites of human occupations, and usually these sites must be unearthed that was the coming up, and on the basis of materials they have excavated and otherwise collected, and they have asked a variety of questions that where when and why did the distinctive human characteristic of tool making first emerge, where when why did agriculture first develop, where when and why did people first begin to live in cities. So these are the some questions which were asked by always anthropologists, as I told you earlier. So to collect the data they needed to suggest answers to these and other questions. Archaeologists use techniques and findings borrowed from other disciplines as well as what they can infer from anthropological studies of recent and contemporary cultures. For example, to guess where a dig of evidence of early tool making, archaeologists rely on geology to tell them where sites of the early human occupations as there are likely to be found. Because of erosion and uplifting near the surface of the earth, more recently, you can say that archaeologists have employed aerial photography and even radar imaging via satellite, a technique which is developed by NASA to pinpoint sites. Now this is a very good photo. The archaeology try to reconstruct the cultures of past society. As you can see the picture, the cliff palace of today, Mesa Verinda, which is Mesa Verinda National Park. Now perspective of gender, as you can, which is written by a very also anthropologist. Here it is Eliza M. Murphy who went to the became interested in the origins of social inequality. Especially you can see that in picture. Now I will tell you about this picture that when she has an undergraduate, archaeologists had known for some time that sustainable wealth difference between families developed only recent, that's only since about 6,000 years ago. Since some what happened, the inequality, that large differences in house and position. When Burmifel was in graduate scale at in the University of Michigan, she did not accept the current explanation of the inequality provide benefit to society. For example, the standard of living of most people improved as the leaders got richer, and consequently when Brumifel undertook that her PhD research in central Mexico, she began to test the benefit of exploration area of had been independently politically, and she became a part of Aztec Empire. She studied the surface material remains and the history in the Europeans and the Aztec nobility and primitive for the improvement of the standards of living of local people of Aztec Empire had absorbed them. So Brumifel also focused on how everyday women lived and how the expansion and whatever the expansion of Aztec Empire had affected them. So she found that women's workload increased under the Aztecs, and Brimifel studied Aztec. Brimifel studied the artwork for evidence of differences in status, which was based on gender in art form and Aztec capital of Tancolton. Images of militarism, masculinity became increasingly important for the growth of empire. As you can see, the women on the other hand showed them a position of work, dealing yet the images of women in the area of Brimifel's field work did not change, unlike their rulers. So just as Brimifel challenged conventional wisdom, that she recognized that the world others too will challenge her work. As she shared that she was quite comfortable with knowing that someone will think that she has gotten it wrong and will set out a lifetime of archaeologist research to find her own answers. So as you can there, now we come on the NASA as you pinpoint sites to infer when agriculture first developed. Archaeologists date the NASA the relevant executed material by a process originally developed by chemical scientist. So they're meaning to say that whatever material they found, so by the research from them they can get that of which date is the material is from and from where it is found. So very much information from the present and recent past can also help illuminate the distant past. For example, to try to understand why cities first emerged, and archaeologists may use information from historians, geographers, and political scientists about how recent and contemporary sites are relatively economically, you can say politically, to the hinterlands. Anthropological linguistics. Anthropological linguistics, it's a very good topic. It's a part of our biological physical anthropology. That is the anthropological study of language. Linguistics, no, sorry, it's a part of cultural pathology. And the study of languages is an older discipline rather than anthropology. Linguistic or study of language. Linguistic means the study of languages. Simple. Linguistic with the study of languages is an older discipline than anthropology, but the early linguistic concentrated on the study of languages that had been written for a long time. Language such as English, which existed in written form for nearly 1,000 years. Anthropological linguists began to do fieldwork in places where the language was not yet written. This meant that anthropologists could not consult a dictionary or grammar to help them learn the language. Instead, they first had to construct a dictionary and grammar. So then they could study the structure and history of the language. Like biological anthropologists, linguistic study changes they have taken place over time as well as contemporary variation. Historical linguistics is the study of how languages change over time and how they have maybe related. Descriptive or structural linguistics is the study of how the contemporary languages differ, especially in their construction or in their structure. So historical linguistics is the study of how languages change over time and how they may be related, and descriptive structural linguistics, that is study of how contemporary language differ and especially in their construction. Now sociolinguistics explains how languages are used in social context. In contrast with the human paleontologists and archaeologists who have physical remains to help with the reconstruct change over time, the historical linguistics deal with the languages, only with the language, usually unwritten one side. So remember that the writing is not only about 5,000 years old. A few languages may have been written because unwritten languages are transmitted orally, and the historical evidence dies with the speakers. Linguistic interested in the reconstruction in the history of unwritten languages that must begin in the present with comparison of the contemporary languages. On the basis of these comparisons, they draw the inferences the kind of change in languages which may have occurred in the past. They may account for similarities and differences observed in the present. Historical linguistics might typically ask, for example, whether two or more contemporary languages diverged from a common ancestral languages, and if so, how far back in the time they began to differ. Unlike historical linguistics, descriptive structural linguistics are concerned with discoveries and recording the principles and that determine how sounds and words are put together in speech. That's a good also question, that how sounds and words are put together in speech. For example, a structural description of a particular language might tell us that the sounds T and K are interchangeable in a word without causing a difference in its meaning. In American Samoa, if it's called, one could say Tutuila, or you can say Kukuila, to the name of the largest island, Tukila or Kukila, and everyone except perhaps newly arrived anthropologists who knew little about the Samoan language would understand that the same island was meant. Now, sociolinguistics are interested in the social aspects of language, including what people speak about, how they interact conversationally, so their attitudes towards speakers of other dialects or languages and how they speak different contexts. So in English, for example, we do not address everyone we meet in the same way. Hi Sandy, maybe customary way of a person greets a friend, but with people we would probably feel uncomfortable addressing a doctor by her owner's first name. So instead we would probably say, good morning, Dr. Brown. Such variations in language use, which are determined by the social status of the people being addressed, are significant for the sociolinguist ethnology, which is also known as cultural anthropology. The subfield of ethnology, now commonly called cultural anthropology. The subfield of ethnology are also called cultural anthropology. What is ethnology? The study of the how and why recent cultures differ and similar. So seeks to understand how and why peoples today in the recent past differ or in similar their customary ways of thinking and acting. They ask how and why cultures develop and change, and how one aspect of culture reflects others. Cultural anthropology seeks answers to a variety of questions, such as why is the custom of marriage nearly universal in all cultures? Exactly, bro. Custom of marriage nearly universal in all cultures. Why do families live with or near with their kin in some societies but not in others? What changes result from the introduction of money in a previously no non-monetary economy, and how are relationships impacted when family remembers move far away to work. So what happens to a society that suffers severe stress? So now we are talking about some current research and issues that of research and work of Timothy G. Bormage. When Timothy Bormage was young, his parents took him to hear a lecture by the legendary paleontologist Louis Leakey. He was not sure that why they had driven so far and paid so much to hear the lecture, nor why they had dragged him along. But he knows that visited started him on the way of becoming a paleontologist himself. Decades later, Bromage's lecture have undoubtedly inspired other younger people to study the life histories of ancient ancestors. He hopes future paleontologists will also think outside the box of the discipline. When they begin their research, that approach has led to Bromage, the major breakthroughs histories of ancient teeth and facial bones. In graduate school, Bromage was struck by the fact that the fossils were treated by as static, as if age did not make a difference. Yet humans, ancient and modern, change physically during their lives. Working with new methods and a scanning electron microscope at the University College London, Bromage found that it is possible to determine how an ancient faces changes with an as an organism matures. So different individuals die at different ages, but it's examining the fossils. Bromage and his colleagues saw distinctive patterns of bone tissues which was changing time by time, and examines and across the period of the development. So working with the specimens that were about 2 million years old, Bromage found that the hominians, commonly referred as the Australopithecines, grew to the adulthood in ape-like manner. The front parts of the skull built up tissues that grew into the forward jutting faces and jaws. Bromage found that the later group, hominin, the Panthropoids, had a pattern of facial growth that resulted in a flatter face, more like the face of a modern human than that of Australopithecines. Bromage has too well also looked at patterns of enamel deposition in an ancient fossil teeth using similar techniques. Early hominin teeth are important specimens in paleontology because they tend to survive well preserved, which means they can be analyzed in much in the same way as the teeth of recent humans. It has been known for some time that when children grow tooth enamel, it put down daily, but every 8 or 9 days there are substantial changes in tooth enamel formation. Why this happens was not well understood, but Bromage and his colleagues have discovered that these rhythmic cycles may be a kind of systemic growth. Bones and tissues, muscles and organs grow at the same time exactly, and the heart respiration rate increases, suggesting that our bodies have a metabolic clock that makes sure that cells divide and bones grow in time to accommodate growing organs. Smaller animals have shorter cycles. Comparison with other primates have enabled the Bromage to infer some life history differences in fossil forms. Such research shows that the promise of the integrative approach Bromage favors, working across disciplines and collaboratively adds to the our knowledge of human evolution as well as health research today. So now we talk about ethnographers and ethnography. So disaster variant conflict. So one type of ethnologist is the ethnographer. Ethnographer usually a person who spends more time living with the interviewing and observing a group of people to describe their customs. And ethnography is the description of society's customary behaviors and ideas. That's a ethnographer is a person, and ethnography is the description of a society. So the fieldwork provides the data for detailed descriptions of customary behavior and thought. Earlier ethnographers tended to strive a holistic coverage of people's way of life, in part because their earlier ethnographics already exist for many cultures, and whereas recent ethnographers has tended to specialize on focus on narrower reasons such as ritual healing or curing, interaction with the environment, effects of modernization or globalization, or gender issues. So ethnographies often do go beyond the descriptions. They may address current anthropological issues to try to explain some aspect of culture. Because many cultures have undergone extensive change in the recent past, an accurate view of them may depend on understanding that what their life was like before the changes came about. So for this there are ethnohistorians. Ethnohistorians are the ethnologists who uses historical documents to study how a particular culture has changed over time. So their way of life, the culture has changed over the time. They examine such written documents as missionary accounts, reports by traders, cured traders and explorers, and government records to identify the cultural exchanges that have occurred. Unlike ethnographers who rely mostly on their own observations and interview, ethnohistorians rely on the reports of others. So they often must piece together and make sense of widely scattered and even apparently contradictory information. Ethnographic and ethno-historical research are both very time consuming, and it is rare for one person to study more than a few cultures. Yeah, exactly. It is the role of cross-cultural researcher. What is cross-cultural researcher? An ethnologist who uses ethnographic data about many societies that test possible explanation of cultural variation to discover general patterns about cultural traits. So what is universal, what is variable, why traits vary, and what are contribution variability may be, that way people will work with each other. The cross-cultural researcher who may be cultural anthropologist for some other kind of social scientist to discover general patterns across cultures. That is what characteristics are universal. So now, why is more gender inequality in societies than in others? What are the effects of living a very unpredictable movement environment? In testing possible answers of such questions, cross-cultural researchers use data from sample of cultures, usually described initially by ethnographers, to try to arrive at explanations of relationships that hold across cultures. Archaeologists may find the results of cross-cultural research useful to making inferences about the past, particularly if they can discover material indicators of cultural variation, because the ethnologist may be interested in many aspects of customary behavior, thought, from economic behavior to political behavior to on behavior or to style of art, music, and religion. So ethnology overlaps with disciplines that concentrate on some particular aspect and comparative religion. But the distinctive feature of cultural anthropology is the interest in how all these aspects of human existence vary from society to society in all historical periods in all parts of the world. Now, we will study that applied or practicing anthropology. All knowledge may turn to be useful in the physical and biological senses. It will understood that the technological breakthroughs like DNA splitting and spacecraft docking in outer space, the development of minuscule computer chips could not have taken place and biological could not have taken place without enormous amounts of basic research uncover the laws of nature in the physical and biological worlds. If we did not understand fundamental principles, the technological achievements we are so proud of would not be possible. Researchers are often driven simply by the curiosity with no thought to where the researcher might lead, which is why such research is sometimes called basic research. The same is true for social sciences. If our researchers find out the societies with combative sports tend to have more bars, it may lead to other inquiries about the relationship between one kind of aggressions and another. The knowledge acquired may ultimately lead to the discovering ways or to correct social problems such as family, violence, and war. For most of the anthropology's history as a profession, anthropologists generally worked in academic institutions, but more and more anthropologists are increasingly working outside academia. Today, that these are probably more anthropologists who work outside academia than it is. So, applied or practicing anthropology is explicitly intended to making anthropological knowledge useful. Practicing anthropologists as practitioners of the substantive discipline increasing call themselves may be trained or any of all the fields of an anthropology. In contrast to the basic researchers who are almost always employed in colleges, universities, museums, applied anthropologists are commonly employed in sitting outside traditional academia, including government agencies, because there is a need for applied anthropologists, international development agencies, private consulting firms, businesses, public health organizations, medical schools, law offices, community development agencies, and charitable foundations. So they are very important for the applied anthropologists. They are very demand. A large number of immigrants from the former Soviet Union, particularly from the Black Sea cities and the towns such as Odessa, live in the Britain Beach neighborhood in Brooklyn. Migrant and immigrant communities such as Little Odessa are an increasing focus of anthropological study. Biological anthropologists right now, if we talk about biological anthropologists, may be called upon to give forensic evidence in court, or they may work in public health or design clothes and equipment to fit human economy. Archaeologists may be involved in preserving and exhibiting artifacts for museums and doing contrast work to find preserved cultural sites that might be damaged by construction of excavations. Linguistics may work in bilingual educational training programs or may work on ways to improve communications. Ethnologists may work in a wide variety of applied projects ranging from community development, urban planning, healthcare and agriculture improvement, to personal and organizational improvement management, assessment of the impact of change programs on people's lives. In the past 2 decades, the speed of globalization has created great changes in applied, whereas the fields using widely on the province of western and often colonizing nations, it has since growth into a vital localized discipline all over the world. In a number of countries, among them Russia, China, Mexico, Egypt, Ecuador, and Brazil, applied on practicing anthropology focus on the solving practical social problems dominates over the research driven our fields. Now specialization, if we talk about, so only the some about chapters remain. So I think we have to remain left from the chapter we will take, and from the next part we will continue from the specialization, and I can show you that how much topic remains. The first is specialization remain, and then relevance of anthropology, and then the summary. I think chapter is completely overall. So I think let the chapter complete, because only 2 pages are left, then we can complete in the one part, so we don't have to make another part for this video. It can be much bit more longer. Okay, let's start. Specialization in this you explain that ways in such bioanthropology specialize within the field of studies. That specialization, as disciplines grow, they tend to develop more and more specialties. This trend of probability inevitable since and knowledge accumulates and methods become more advanced. There is a limit of what one person can reasonably master. Thus, in addition to the general divisions we have outlined already, particular anthropologists tend to identify themselves with a variety of specializations. Anthropologists commonly have a geographic specialty, which may be broad as Old World or New World as a North or Southwestern United States. Those who study the past, archaeologists or human paleontologists, may specialize in specific time cultural areas. Just as most of the chapters in the book refer to the broad subject and specialties, to do some ethnologists identify themselves as economic anthropologist, political anthropologist, or psychological anthropologist. Others may identify themselves called orientations such as cultural ecologist, anthropologists who are concerned with the relationship between the culture and physical and social environment. Those specialties are not mutually inclusive. However, a cultural ecologist, for example, might be interested in the effects of environment on economic behavior, political behavior, or child rearing. The specialization isolate an anthropologist from other kinds of research. Not necessary. Some specialties have to draw on information from several fields inside and outside anthropology. For example, medical anthropologists study the cultural and biological context of human health and illness. Medical anthropology that study the cultural and biological context of human health and illness. Very good. Therefore, they need to understand the economy, diet, and patterns of social interaction, as well as attitudes and beliefs regarding illness and health. And they may also need to draw to research in human genetics and public health and medicine. Now, relevance of anthropology. In this, what do we get? To communicate the relevance of anthropology. What is relevance? Anthropology is comparatively without your young discipline. Anthropologists only began to go to the life with people in foreign places in the late 1800s. Compared to our knowledge to the physical laws of nature, we know much better. We know much less about the people, about how and why they behave as they do. So that anthropology and other science dealing with the humans began to develop only relatively recently is not itself sufficient reason for our knowing less than its physical sciences. So why, in our quest of knowledge all of all kinds, did we wait so long for study ourselves? So Leslie White had suggested that those phenomena most remote from us and least significant as determinants of human behavior were the first to be studied. The reason he surmises is that humans like to think of themselves as citadels of free will, subject to no laws of nature. Hence, the White concludes that there is no need to ourselves to subject to be explained. The idea that it is impossible to account for human behavior scientifically, either because of our actions and beliefs are too individualistic and complex, or because human beings are understandable only in other worldly terms, is a self-fulfilling notions. We cannot discover principles explaining human behavior if we neither believe such principles exist nor bother to look for them. The result is ensured from the beginning that disbelief in principles of human behavior will be reinforced by the failure to find them. If we are to increase our understanding of human beings, we first have to believe it is possible to do so. If we aim to understand humans, it is essential that we study humans in all times and places. We must study ancient humans and modern humans. We must study their cultures, their biology. How else we can understand what is the true of humans generally, on how they are capable of varying? If we study just our own society, we may come up only with explanations that are cultural bound, not general or applicable to most of all humans. Anthropology is useful then to the degree that it contributes to our understanding of human beings everywhere. In addition, anthropology is relevant because it helps to avoid misunderstanding between peoples. And if we can understand why other peoples are different from ourselves, we might have less reason to condemn that behavior that appears strange to us. We may then come to realize that many differences between people are products of physical and cultural adaptations of different environments. For example, someone who first finds then out of about the Kangs as they lived in the Kalahari Desert of the southern Africa 1950s, might assume that the Kang were backward. The exclamation point of the name Kang signifies that one of the clicking sounds made with the tongue or by speakers of the Kang language. The Kang Kang wore little clothing, had few possessions, lived in the meager shelters, and enjoyed none of our technological niceties and such as radio and computers. But let us reflect on how a typical North American community might react if we awoke to find itself an environment similar to, which is that of the Kung lived. People would find that the arid land makes both agriculture and animal husbandry impossible. They might have to think about adopting a nomadic existence. They might then discard many of their material possessions so that they could travel easily to take advantage of changing water and food supplies. Because of extreme heat and the lack of extra water for laundry, they might find it more practical to be almost naked than to wear clothes. So they would undoubtedly find it impossible to build elaborate homes. For social security, they might start to share the food brought into the group. Thus, if they survived at all, they might end up looking and acting for some like the Kang, the typical North Americans. So physical differences too may have been seen as a result of adaptation to the environment. For example, in our society, we admire people who are tall, slim. If these same individuals were forced to live about the Arctic Circle, however, they might wish they could trade their tall, slim bodies for short, compact bones once because stocky physics conserve body heat more effectively and may therefore be more adaptive in cold climates. Exposure to anthropology might also help to alleviate misunderstandings that arise between people of different cultural groups from subtle causes operating below the level of consciousness. For example, different culture have different conceptions by exactly of the gesture and interpersonal distances with that are appropriate under various circumstances. For example, different cultures have different conceptions of eye contact during the conversation, whereas some people North Americans, most European Arabs among them expected to maintain eye contact during the conversation. In Japanese culture, the gaze is averted then when interacting with a superior or ventured older person. The North American may feel suspicious when someone does not look them in the eye when speaking, but in another culture the same direct gaze may be experienced as a brazen. If our intolerance for other results is part of lack of understanding of why pupils vary, then the knowledge the anthropologists accumulate may lessen the intolerance. As the world becomes increasingly interconnected or globalized, the importance of understanding and trying to respect cultural and physical differences becomes more and more important. Exactly, the minor misunderstanding can escalate the quickly into the more serious problems. Even when powerful countries think that they are being helpful, they may convey that other countries are inferior. They may also unknowingly promote behaviors that are not in the best interest of the people they are trying to help. At the extreme, misunderstanding can lead to the violent confrontations. In today's world, going to war with the modern weapons of mass destruction can kill more people than ever before. Understanding and respecting cultural and biological differences is enough. Although education is undoubtedly useful, many anthropologists believe that more direct action is needed to solve real world problems at both the global and local levels. At the global level, we have to deal with many types of violent conflict, the degradation of the environment, and the growing inequality between rich and poor countries, the major threats of health. At the local level, we have to grapple with the whether particular development plans are advantageous or how to improve nutrition and health of particular societies. One solution does not necessarily fit all. What is good for some may not be good for others in different circumstances. To find out if some changes will be advantageous requires careful study. Many ethical issues arise. Is it ethical to try to interfere with some people's life? Is it ethical not to if they are suffering to for us that people help? Knowledge of our past may bring both a feeling of humility and sense of accomplishment. If we are to attempt to deal with the problem of our world, We must be aware of our vulnerabilities so that we do not think that problems will solve themselves. But we also have to think that enough for our compliments to believe that we can find solutions to problems. Much of the trouble to we get into may be a result of feeling of self-importance and invulnerability. In short, our lack of humility, knowing something about the evolutionary past, may help us to understand and accept our place in the biological world. Just as for any other forms of life, there is no guarantee that any particular human population or even the entire human species will perpetuate itself indefinitely. The earth changes and the environment changes. The humanity itself changes. So what survives and flourishes in the present that might not do in the future. So yet our vulnerability should not make us feel powerless. So we have many reasons to feel confident about the future. Consider that we have accomplished so far by means of tools and weapons fashioned from sticks and stones. We were able to hunt animals larger and more powerful than ourselves. So we discovered how to make fire and we learned to use it to keep ourselves warm, to cook our food. As we domesticated plants and animals have gained greater control over our food supply, were able to establish more permanent settlements. We mined and smelted ores to fashion more durable tools. We built cities and irrigation systems, monuments, and ships. We made it possible to travel from one continent to another in a single day. We conquered some illness and prolonged human life. In short, human beings and their cultures have changed considerably over the course of history. Human populations have often been able to adapt to changing circumstances. Let us hope that the humans continue to adapt to the challenges of the present and the future. Now this is summary, very short summary. It is only of I think not only more than two, it's of 2 pages, 1.5 pages only. So let's start. What is anthropology? Those are the main points you have to learn. Explain the some questions, and there is also written answer. Right? So very good. I think you have to take a screenshot about this if you want. What is anthropology? And question is, explain the general definition and purpose of anthropology. So answer is, anthropology is a discipline of curiosity about human beings that seeks to understand both universals and differences in human populations. Anthropology seeks answers to biological and cultural questions about humans for both academic and practical purposes. Anthropology is distinct from other disciplines also concerned with human beings in its scope, its holistic approach, and its distinctive curiosity. Okay. Next question is, what are the academic and practical purpose of anthropology? Academic and practical. So why are we studying anthropology? So what is scope anthropology? So the answer is, the field of anthropology has a very broad scope, both geographically as well as historically. Anthropologists are interested in all varieties of people in every part of the world. Anthropologists are interested in people of all the periods from millions of years to the present. The broad scope of anthropology is required to confirm that any suggested generation of human beings, any explanation of some characteristic of human culture or biology is applicable to many times and the places of human existence, not just a limited group. The next question is, what are the global goals anthropologists call study? Anthropological study. What are the global goals? Which means, what are the holistic approach about the anthropology? Explain the holistic approach. The holistic approach is the anthropologists study the many special aspects of human experiences as an integrated whole, or anthropologists look for patterns of traits and attempts to explain them. Okay, so next question is, what are elements of the human experiences and might be considered a holistic approach? That's the question of remain. Now question is, explain anthropological curiosity in terms its focus on typical characteristics in human populations. They're basically talking about anthropologist curiosity. So the answer is 3 points. The first point is, anthropologist distinctiveness lies principally in the kind of curiosity it arouses. Second one is, anthropologists tend to focus on typical characteristics of human population that study rather than of individual variations or variation in small groups. Third one is, because anthropologists view human groups holistically, their curiosity may lead them to find patterns of relationships between the seemingly unrelated characteristics. Fields of anthropology. Now differentiate among the 5 major fields of anthropology. Anthropological comprises of 2 broader classifications of subject matter, which is biological physical anthropology first is, and second one is cultural anthropology. Biological anthropology poses question about the emergence of humans, their later evolution, paleontology, and about how and why contemporary human population vary biologically, which is human variation. Another one is cultural anthropology, is the study of how and why cultures in the past and present vary or similar in terms of the ways that particular population society thinks and behaves. Now cultural anthropology includes 3 subfields: archaeology, linguistics, and ethnology, which is also called cultural anthropology. A fifth subfield, applied or practicing anthropology, which cuts across all other 4 subfields. So the purpose of applied or practicing anthropology is explicitly to make anthropological knowledge useful. A practicing anthropologist may be trained in any or all the fields of anthropology. Now, specialization, if we talk about, explain the ways in which the anthropologist specialize within the fields of studies. Anthropologists specialize by focusing on a geographic area, a period of time, particular subject matter such as economies, politics, and a physical psychology, or particular theoretical orientations. Anthropology might have more than one specialization. Now, the last question is the relevance of anthropology. Communicate the relevance of anthropology. Anthropology is a young discipline beginning in the late 1800, initially, especially among Westerns, and there are the resistance of the idea of accounting for human behavior scientifically. Anthropology considers both culture and biology of humans in all times and places. Anthropology is useful to the degree that it contributes to our understanding of human beings everywhere. In addition, anthropology is relevant because it helps to avoid misunderstanding between peoples. If those of one culture is can understand why other groups are different from them, they might have less reason to condemn others to behavior that appears strange. As the worlds become increasingly interconnected or globalized, the importance of understanding and trying to respect culture and physical differences become more and more important. So our chapter is complete right now. So next we will study in the next part research methods in anthropology. And I, as you can see, that I make so many efforts word by word I study them. Only you don't have to make any effort, you have to just listen this video very carefully word by word, and you can get. And so for if you are interested for next part, I targeted for only just 15 likes on my this video, and please comment me that you liked video or what are the things which I can change in this video so that I can improve in my next parts. And please, I just respect request, this is my request to all of my viewers, that please share as can you can share this video and subscribe my channel so that it can be helpful for others also. Thank you, and subscribe my channel.